Mia could hardly contain her excitement. She had spent nearly 2 weeks planning the perfect anniversary celebration for herself and her husband, Ryan. Their 7th wedding anniversary fell on a Friday evening, a time Mia assumed would be the most romantic to commemorate their years together. She had taken the day off work, determined to prepare everything from scratch. Bright and early that morning, Mia woke up with a flutter of anticipation in her stomach. She carefully laid out a 3-course meal menu on the kitchen counter, an appetizer of bruschetta topped with fresh tomatoes and basil, a main course of lemon butter salmon with roasted vegetables, and a decadent chocolate mousse cake for dessert. She then spent hours gathering the best ingredients from the local farmer's market. Every step of the way, she pictured Ryan's face lighting up with delight. The living room was transformed into a cozy, candlelit wonderland. Cream-colored candles glowed on every available surface, casting a golden sheen across the furniture. A soft, melodic playlist drifted through the air, featuring songs they once danced to in their happier days, back when Ryan would twirl Mia around the living room in his arms. Dressed in a chic navy blue cocktail dress, Mia busied herself setting the table with their finest china. She double-checked the wine glasses for smudges, wiped them again, and arranged a bouquet of white roses, her favorite, in the center. Everything was perfect. By the time the clock struck 7 p.m., the meal was ready. Mia's heart pounded with both nerves and excitement. She lit the final candle on the dining table and glanced at the door expectantly. Any minute now. 8 o'clock rolled by. No phone call. No text. Nothing. She tried calling Ryan, but it went straight to voicemail. She sent him a single text, "Hey, are you on your way?" But it remained unread. The food on the dining table started to cool. The candles began to sputter, the wax forming small pools. With each passing minute, Mia's joyful anticipation ebbed away, replaced by a gnawing dread. Midnight came and went. Mia had blown out most of the candles for safety. She sat in the dimly lit living room, the once warm dinner congealing on the plates. The entire apartment felt like a hollow shell. The only sound was the rhythmic ticking of the clock above the fireplace. Finally, at 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. A simple text, "On my way." It was far too late, yet relief washed over her, at least Ryan was safe. Moments later, she heard keys jingling at the front door. She rushed to greet him, only to recoil when the distinct odor of strong perfume hit her nose. Ryan's tie was loose, his hair disheveled, and his smile was anything but apologetic. Mia's eyes glistened with tears as she confronted her husband. "Ryan, do you have any idea what time it is? I've been waiting since 7. What happened?" Ryan let out a dismissive sigh, rolling his eyes as he tossed his suit jacket onto a nearby chair. "Don't start, Mia," he muttered, his tone dripping with annoyance. "I've had a stressful day. And you're lucky I bothered coming home at all." His words cut through her like a knife. There was no remorse, no explanation, no sign of the loving partner she once knew. Her lip trembled. "It was our anniversary," she managed, voice quivering with suppressed anger. "I cooked your favorite meal." "I waited 5 hours, Ryan." He shrugged. "You're overreacting. We can celebrate tomorrow or something. Relax. Stop being so emotional." She noticed the faint scent of another woman's perfume clinging to his shirt collar. Her mind wandered, was he with a colleague? A client? Or someone else entirely? Anxiety and fury built up inside her, but Ryan swiftly brushed past her. "I'm going to bed," he said in a final tone. "Don't follow me in there crying." Mia wanted to protest, to shout, to demand an explanation, but she was paralyzed by a mixture of fear and heartbreak. She stood in the living room for what felt like ages, tears silently rolling down her cheeks, candles still flickering around her. The man she had married, the man she had once idolized, now seemed like a stranger. And she couldn't fathom why. Over the next week, Mia felt an unshakable need to search for the truth. Ryan's erratic behavior, his aloofness, his late nights, his dismissive attitude, could no longer be explained away by work stress or a tough market. He had been distant for months, and their anniversary incident was merely the harshest blow. One afternoon, Mia found herself scrolling through Ryan's work laptop, which he had carelessly left open in the living room. She paused, feeling a jolt of guilt for snooping. Yet a desperate voice in her head urged her to look. A single email notification from Elisa Summers flickered on the screen. Hands trembling, Mia clicked on the email thread. The conversation that unfurled told her everything she needed to know: flirtatious messages, suggestive photos, talk of secret weekend getaways. Her heart pounded in her chest, shock warring with fury. She pressed her hand to her mouth to stifle a sob when she read a particularly jarring sentence. "Your wife is so pathetic. Can't believe she still doesn't suspect a thing. LOL." It felt like a punch to the gut. Mia's lungs constricted as she inhaled sharply, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. She scrolled further, each message more explicit, more dismissive of her. There were mentions of Mia's cooking, her simple clothes, and her lack of excitement. Lisa mocked Mia relentlessly, painting her as a naive housewife too blind to see she was being used. Ryan's responses weren't any better. He blamed Mia for being boring, for not understanding his ambitions, and for holding him back in life. The betrayal lit a fire within Mia that threatened to consume her entire being. For a long moment, she just stared at the screen, tears streaming down her face, reading and rereading Lisa's toxic words. When she finally mustered the courage to close the laptop, Mia felt a sudden wave of clarity. She knew she couldn't stay in the dark any longer, and she certainly couldn't keep living a life built on lies. The discovery of the secret affair spurred Mia to look deeper. Over the course of the next few days, she carefully examined bank statements, credit card bills, and investment portfolios. It was a skill she had never needed to use before. Ryan had always managed the finances, and she trusted him blindly. Late one evening, Mia sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by paper statements and account details spread out in a disorganized heap. She meticulously highlighted unexplained withdrawals and unrecognizable bank transfers. Patterns began to emerge. There were monthly deposits into an unknown account, each transfer labeled with a vague memo like consulting fee or personal savings. Yet the amounts were too large and too frequent to be routine. A creeping sense of dread fell over her as she tallied the sums. Tens of thousands of dollars had been funneled into this separate account over the past year alone. Meanwhile, Mia had been budgeting carefully just to pay their daily expenses, utilities, groceries, car maintenance, while Ryan occasionally claimed they needed to cut back. She dug deeper, following the money trail to hotel receipts, lavish restaurant bills, and even jewelry purchases at high-end boutiques. None of these luxuries had ever made their way to Mia. She remembered nights when Ryan returned home with excuses: company dinner, client meeting, or work trip. Now, the truth was laid bare: he was footing Lisa's extravagant lifestyle at Mia's expense. By the time Mia closed the last statement, her hands were shaking. It wasn't just about the money or even the affair anymore. It was the raw betrayal, the cold calculation behind Ryan's actions. He had been siphoning their shared resources, leaving her, his wife, in financial strain while pampering Lisa with the life Mia never had. Fueled by heartbreak and anger, Mia decided to confront Ryan in person. She suspected he would be spending more time at the office since a new project was supposedly keeping him busy every evening. She drove to his downtown corporate building on a cloudy Tuesday afternoon, her stomach roiling with nerves. The lobby was hushed, a pristine marble floor reflecting the overhead lights. A receptionist greeted her politely, but Mia ignored the forced smile as she made her way to the elevator. She felt like she was walking into the lion's den. She arrived at Ryan's office on the 27th floor, noticing Lisa's name on the door across the hallway. The sight turned her stomach. The corridor was empty, and Mia's heart pounded in her chest as she approached Ryan's office door. It stood ajar, revealing the interior: Ryan seated on the edge of the desk, tie loosened, his face animated. Lisa stood before him, a smug grin curling her lips, leaning forward in a way that spoke volumes. Mia froze for a heartbeat. She watched Lisa run her fingers through Ryan's hair. "I told you I'd help blow off steam after your meeting," Lisa purred, her voice dripping with confidence. Suddenly, Mia's hand jerked against the door, causing it to swing open with a resounding thud. The pair inside froze, turning sharply to see Mia framed in the doorway. Her gaze flickered between Lisa's triumphant smirk and Ryan's shocked face. The tension in the air was suffocating. "Mia!" Ryan blurted, leaping off the desk. "What are you?" "What am I doing here?" she hissed, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm here because you've turned our marriage into a mockery." Lisa looked Mia up and down with contempt. "You really should have seen this coming, dear," she said, echoing Ryan's earlier words. "Ryan deserves better." Mia's temper flared, but more than rage, a cold resolve settled within her. She glared at Ryan, who had the nerve to look irritated rather than remorseful. He shrugged, displaying a smug confidence. "You should have seen this coming," he echoed Lisa's sentiment. "We haven't been happy in a long time, Mia. Let's be honest." For a long moment, Mia felt the urge to scream or to collapse from heartbreak, but she fought it down. She simply turned on her heel and left the office, refusing to let them see her crumble. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. That same night, Mia took the step she had been avoiding. She contacted a divorce attorney. Initially, the word divorce terrified her. It sounded final and unchangeable, a marker that she had failed in her marriage. But after witnessing Ryan and Lisa together, she realized there was nothing left to salvage. Within a few days, the papers were drawn up. Mia's hands trembled as she signed her name on the dotted line, the legal language spelling out the dissolution of the marriage. She felt a pang of sorrow at how quickly something once precious could be reduced to a handful of pages. When Ryan finally received the documents, his reaction bordered on callous glee. "I was wondering how long it would take you," he remarked, with a sneer. "You really think you can survive without me?" Mia stiffened at his arrogance. "I've survived worse," she countered, though her voice wavered. Inside, a part of her still clung to the memories of a kinder, more supportive Ryan. But that Ryan no longer existed. He leaned back, scanning the documents with mocking interest. "You'll come crawling back," he concluded. "Once you realize you can't handle real life on your own." Mia said nothing. She simply collected her keys and left. A storm of conflicting emotions raged within her, fear, anger, sadness, and an unfamiliar sense of determination. She had begun the process of legally separating from the man who had betrayed her trust. From now on, she vowed she would do everything in her power to stand on her own 2 feet. Mia needed a job, and fast. She had some administrative experience from her early 20s, but for the bulk of her marriage, she had been the homemaker, cooking, cleaning, and managing the household while Ryan pursued his career. As a result, her resume wasn't particularly impressive. She applied to countless positions over the next several weeks, receptionist roles, entry-level administrative jobs, even part-time retail work. One Tuesday afternoon, her phone buzzed with a call from a number she didn't recognize. Hoping it was a potential employer, she answered with a polite greeting. The voice on the other end introduced himself as Adrian Carter, CEO of Carter Enterprises. Mia almost dropped the phone. Adrian Carter was a name she had seen in magazines and headlines. He was known for his massive tech innovations and for being one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the city. "I was given your information by an old acquaintance," Adrian said smoothly. "I understand you're looking for a position. Perhaps we can meet and discuss a possible opportunity." Mia's heart pounded in her chest. She agreed to the meeting, feeling both nervous and exhilarated. Why would a powerful CEO want to hire her, of all people? She had no illusions about how corporate executives typically operated, but something about Adrian's calm confidence over the phone gave her hope. The interview took place at a chic downtown cafe. Adrian arrived right on time, stepping out of a sleek black car. He was tall, with a chiseled jawline and a neatly tailored suit that screamed success. Despite his imposing presence, he offered Mia a gentle smile as he joined her at a corner table. "Thank you for meeting me," Mia said, trying to keep her composure. "I'm honestly a bit surprised you reached out." Adrian's gaze was warm but focused. "I've heard that you're hardworking, meticulous, and capable of handling more responsibility than you realize. I have a new division in my company that requires fresh perspectives. Let's discuss your background and see if we can find a fit." They talked for over an hour, covering Mia's administrative skills, her brief stint in community college studying finance, and even her personal interests. Adrian listened intently, occasionally asking probing questions about her goals and willingness to learn. By the end, his expression softened. "You're exactly what I'm looking for, someone who isn't jaded by traditional corporate strategies, someone eager to learn." He slid a business card across the table. "I'll have my HR department formalize an offer. It'll start as an entry-level position in corporate strategy, but with your drive, I see you going far." Mia was stunned. Gratitude and disbelief warred within her. With trembling fingers, she accepted the card. "Thank you, Mr. Carter," she whispered, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. For the first time in months, hope blossomed in her chest. Mia's first day at Carter Enterprises felt like stepping onto another planet. Gone were the days of chasing after Ryan's schedule or being mocked as a pathetic housewife. She entered the sleek, high-rise building wearing a modest blouse and slacks, her resume tucked under her arm. She was assigned to a small team working on corporate investments. Though she initially felt intimidated by the fast-paced environment and jargon she hadn't used in years, she quickly discovered she had a knack for strategic thinking and organization. Her supervisor, Imelda, was patient but rigorous, walking her through spreadsheets and analytics to show her how to evaluate projects and market trends. Every evening, Mia found herself staying late, poring over investment reports and online tutorials. Though it was exhausting, the pride she felt in learning something new was invigorating. Adrian occasionally stopped by her desk to check on her progress. He would offer a word of encouragement or a piece of advice, which made her feel both motivated and strangely seen. One night, as she prepared to leave the office, Adrian happened to be in the hallway. He gave her a nod of approval. "You've been doing impressive work," he said. "Keep it up, and there will be opportunities for growth here." Mia blushed slightly under his praise. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I really appreciate the chance." He smiled. "It's Adrian," he corrected gently. "And I appreciate your dedication. It's not easy transitioning into a role like this, but you're handling it better than most." As she rode the elevator down, Mia felt a warmth spread through her chest. She could barely believe how drastically her life had changed in a matter of weeks. The husband who had dismissed her as a burden was gone, replaced by a demanding yet thrilling new career, and the mentorship of one of the most respected CEOs in the city. Along with her professional growth came a gradual transformation in Mia's outward appearance. She had never been particularly vain, but she realized her old wardrobe of casual dresses and house slippers simply wouldn't cut it in a high-stakes corporate environment. With her first few paychecks, she invested in a tailored blazer, a few crisp blouses, and a pair of comfortable yet stylish heels. Sarah, Mia's best friend since college, offered her fashion advice and moral support. "We're going shopping," Sarah announced one Saturday morning, dragging Mia to a trendy boutique. "You need outfits that say, 'I'm confident, I'm capable, and I'm done being underestimated.'" They spent hours selecting clothes that flattered Mia's figure, pencil skirts, elegant tops, and bold statement pieces that made her feel powerful rather than plain. The boutique's mirror revealed a version of Mia she barely recognized, poised, sleek, and undeniably confident. Encouraged by her new sense of self, Mia also revamped her daily routine. She started exercising at a nearby gym, taking up simple weight training and yoga sessions to build her endurance and clear her mind. Within a few weeks, she noticed her posture improving, her energy levels surging. She began to carry herself differently in meetings, no longer shrinking into the background. Every morning, she looked in the mirror and saw the subtle changes, a more defined jawline, brighter eyes, and a spark of determination that hadn't been there before. For years, Ryan had made her feel invisible. Now, she was learning to see herself, and liking the image reflected back. A few months into her new job, Mia's hard work paid off. Adrian invited her to a high-profile networking event in Los Angeles. It was a major conference attended by top executives, venture capitalists, and industry luminaries. Adrian wanted Mia to be part of the Carter Enterprises presentation team, a sign of remarkable trust and respect. The plane ride was nerve-wracking. Mia rehearsed her talking points, her elevator pitch, and potential answers for tough questions. She checked into a luxurious hotel she had never dreamed of staying at, her eyes wide at the opulent lobby and panoramic view from her room. On the evening of the event, she donned a charcoal gray business dress that accentuated her newfound confidence. She stood beside Adrian as they greeted potential investors and partners, summarizing Carter Enterprises' latest expansions and forging valuable connections. Between conversations, Adrian would lean in to offer a quiet compliment, "You're handling them like a pro," or "Your analysis really impressed them." At the end of the night, after hours of mingling and presentations, Adrian and Mia found themselves alone on a balcony overlooking the city lights. Soft music and the hum of distant chatter drifted through the air. She exhaled, leaning against the railing. "I still can't believe you brought me here, Adrian." "I was a nervous wreck." He gave her a half-smile. "I don't see nerves. I see talent. Sometimes, you need a challenging environment to realize what you're capable of." His eyes lingered on hers for a moment. In that quiet space between them, Mia sensed something shift, an unspoken understanding. Adrian was no longer just her boss, he was becoming her ally, someone who truly believed in her worth. Heat rose to her cheeks, and she glanced away, uncertain of how to handle this unexpected closeness. Neither of them said anything further. But as they returned inside, the awareness between them buzzed like electricity, hinting at possibilities that extended beyond a simple employer-employee relationship. While Mia was soaring in her new career, Ryan's world was beginning to crumble. His financial mismanagement had caught up with him. For years, he had been funneling money into risky investments and squandering funds on Lisa's expensive tastes, all while neglecting the basics of running a stable company. Rumors swirled around his office about delayed paychecks and cancelled projects. Suppliers demanded overdue payments, and employees murmured about layoffs. The tension in Ryan's workplace was palpable, and Lisa, ever attuned to financial stability, started spending more time meeting friends or visiting sick relatives, always offering vague excuses to be elsewhere. Ryan tried to maintain a facade of control, but cracks showed. One afternoon, a group of disgruntled investors cornered him in the boardroom, demanding answers. In a desperate attempt to cover his tracks, Ryan blamed the unstable market and a series of unfortunate events. But his excuses rang hollow. The meltdown had begun, and everyone could smell the blood in the water. Fate intervened one evening at a swanky charity gala, an event aimed at raising funds for a local children's hospital. Mia attended as part of Carter Enterprises' delegation, wearing a sleek black gown that made her look every bit the successful businesswoman she had become. She was chatting with potential donors when a familiar voice murmured behind her, "Mia?" She turned to see Ryan standing there, holding a half-empty flute of champagne. He looked visibly worn, dark circles under his eyes, his once pristine suit now slightly ill-fitting. For a moment, he seemed unsure of what to say. "Mia," he repeated, this time with a touch of vulnerability. "I didn't know you'd be here." She raised an eyebrow. "I'm here with my colleagues. We're sponsoring part of the event." He glanced at the Carter Enterprises name badge pinned to her dress, shock evident on his face. "So you're working for Adrian Carter now?" he asked, trying to sound indifferent but failing. "Indeed, I am." Mia's posture was straight, her tone calm. She felt no need to explain herself further. She could see the question in Ryan's eyes, how did you land such a prestigious job? But she refused to indulge his curiosity. There was an awkward silence as Ryan shifted from one foot to the other. Before he could gather his thoughts, Adrian himself approached, placing a gentle hand on Mia's shoulder. Mia, the keynote speaker is about to begin. We should get seated. Ryan's eyes flicked between Mia and Adrian, realization dawning. The polite, almost protective way Adrian guided Mia suggested a closeness that went beyond the standard boss-employee dynamic. Ryan cleared his throat, but no words came. Mia offered a small, polite smile. Good evening, Ryan, she said before turning away to follow Adrian. She felt an indescribable surge of pride. Finally, she walked away with her head held high, leaving Ryan staring after her in stunned silence. Later that same evening, Lisa spotted Mia across the gala hall. Mia was laughing with Adrian and a circle of executives, their conversation animated. Lisa's eyes narrowed. She sidled up to Ryan, hissing under her breath, "Who's that with her?" Ryan forced a casual shrug. Adrian Carter, some big-shot CEO. Mia apparently works for him now. Lisa's gaze lingered on Adrian's hand resting lightly against Mia's back as they spoke. The two looked every bit the power duo, a far cry from the timid housewife she had mocked. She looks expensive, Lisa muttered, noting Mia's designer gown, impeccable makeup, and poised demeanor. Ryan tried to laugh it off, but he couldn't hide the flicker of insecurity in his eyes. He watched as Mia effortlessly mingled with influential people. The same woman he had dismissed and belittled for years now appeared to be thriving in circles he hadn't even managed to crack. Lisa frowned, recognizing the shift in the social hierarchy. For once, she saw that Mia commanded a respect that extended beyond her physical appearance or relationship status. And for the first time, Lisa felt an unsettling twinge of envy and unease. Nights later, as Ryan's business woes worsened, he found himself thinking of Mia. When he opened his email to review company documents, he was met with more lawsuits, more demands for payments. His phone buzzed incessantly with complaints from clients. Sleep became a luxury he could scarcely afford. Late one evening, in a moment of desperation and weakened pride, Ryan typed out a text message to Mia. I miss us. We should talk. He stared at the screen, recalling memories of their early days, her laughter, her unwavering support. In a state of self-pity, he convinced himself that Mia might forgive him if he showed a sliver of remorse. But hours passed with no reply. The message remained marked as read, with no response. Mia had left him on read. Ryan felt a pang of humiliation. Anger flared within him, followed by a simmering guilt he had long ignored. His empire was crumbling, and with it, the illusions he had constructed around himself. As Ryan's finances unraveled, Lisa's veneer of loyalty began to crack. She had always been attracted to wealth and status, and Ryan's precarious situation no longer offered the lavish lifestyle she craved. One morning, she strutted into Ryan's apartment, once their coveted secret hideout, in designer heels. She tossed her golden hair over her shoulder, her features set in a mask of haughty impatience. We need to talk, she announced, hands on her hips. What's going on with your money? I tried to use the card you gave me, and it got declined. Ryan let out a frustrated sigh, cradling his head in his hands. It's just a temporary liquidity issue, he lied. I'll get things sorted. Give me time. Lisa scoffed, crossing her arms. I'm not waiting around to be some broke man's trophy. I didn't leave a comfortable life to end up with someone drowning in debts. He tried to reason with her, but she refused to listen. Within minutes, the argument escalated, and Lisa stormed out the door, hurling curses over her shoulder. Ryan chased after her into the hallway, only to see her stepping into a waiting car with another man, someone who exuded money and power far exceeding Ryan's current state. As the elevator doors closed behind them, Ryan realized he was utterly alone. Lisa, the woman he had gambled his marriage for, had deserted him just as quickly as she had entered his life. 6 months passed, and the day of the final divorce proceedings arrived. Mia felt a swirl of conflicting emotions, relief, sadness, and an overwhelming desire for closure. The hearing was set for 10 a.m. in a high-ceilinged, formal courtroom. Ryan was already seated at one of the wooden tables when Mia walked in. His eyes snapped up at her entrance. She was dressed in a pristine tailored suit, her hair swept back in a confident style. At her side, holding her hand, was Adrian Carter. The buzz in the courtroom was immediate, murmurs rippled through the small gathering of onlookers and legal staff. Mia held her head high, ignoring the stares. Adrian squeezed her hand reassuringly, then guided her to her seat. Ryan's expression contorted with a mix of shock and indignation. He had half expected her to arrive alone, perhaps accompanied by her lawyer, but never with Adrian Carter at her side. Mia's attorney stood and delivered the necessary statements. Ryan's lawyer offered feeble objections, but the outcome was inevitable. The divorce settlement granted Mia a fair share, including the return of assets Ryan had attempted to conceal. The tension in the room mounted as everyone sensed the final climax approaching, the moment when Mia would walk away for good. Just before the judge declared the divorce finalized, Ryan rose from his chair, his gaze fixed on Mia. "Mia, please," he said in a voice that quivered with desperation. "I was wrong. I made mistakes. But we can work this out." Mia met his gaze steadily, though her heart pounded. She remembered every tear she had shed, every sleepless night, every cruel word he and Lisa had hurled at her. She breathed in, then spoke with a calm, unwavering tone. "Wrong? No, Ryan. You were temporary. This is permanent." The words hung in the air, reverberating with finality. Ryan's shoulders sagged, and he looked away, recognizing that he no longer had any power over her. Mia's statement was more than just an insult, it was a declaration that she was done being his victim. Adrian looked on with quiet pride, his hand resting lightly on Mia's shoulder. The judge finalized the divorce, the gavel coming down with a sharp thud. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters, having caught wind of Adrian Carter's presence at a divorce proceeding, scrambled to capture the moment. Microphones were thrust in Mia's direction, questions flying from all sides. Is it true you're dating Adrian Carter? How does it feel to be divorced? Any comments on Ryan's financial collapse? Ryan lagged behind, overshadowed by the spectacle. His attempts to speak were drowned out by the clamor for Mia's and Adrian's attention. For years, Ryan had relished being the center of Mia's world, commanding her devotion while giving her little in return. Now, he was sidelined, invisible, forced to watch as Mia stood radiant and composed beside a man of remarkable influence. In a desperate bid to salvage some dignity, Ryan tried to approach Mia. "Mia, he began, only to be jostled aside by reporters eager to photograph the newly freed woman and her powerful companion. Mia and Adrian made their way through the crowd, ignoring shouted questions. Ryan lunged forward, attempting to grab Mia's arm in a final, reckless act of desperation. But Adrian was quicker. He intercepted Ryan's hand with a firm, almost casual gesture, his cold stare stopping Ryan in his tracks. "Don't touch her," Adrian said with quiet menace, and for a moment, a hush fell over the onlookers. Ryan, visibly shaken, retreated. The glimmer of power he once wielded was now extinguished. Mia cast one last glance in Ryan's direction. A jumble of emotions fluttered through her, pity, anger, and the last vestiges of heartbreak. But overarching all of it was a sense of liberation. Adrian led Mia to his car, a luxurious vehicle that only amplified the spectacle. Paparazzi cameras flashed, reporters shouted, but Mia slid into the passenger seat with poise, shutting out the frenzy behind tinted windows. As the car pulled away, Mia caught sight of Ryan in the rearview mirror, slumped on the courthouse steps. He looked small, defeated, and alone, a far cry from the overconfident man who had once told her she'd never survive without him. Adrian reached over to gently squeeze her hand. "You okay?" he asked softly. Mia nodded, exhaling a breath she'd been holding for what felt like years. She turned to gaze at him, a grateful smile curving her lips. "I'm more than okay," she murmured, glancing back at Ryan's diminishing figure in the mirror. "This is just the beginning." The car merged into the bustling city streets, carrying Mia toward a future she never thought possible, one of independence, respect, and the thrilling promise of new love. In that moment, the final remnants of her old life fell away, leaving behind only the fierce, determined woman she had become. The end.